Diaz is clearly a psychopath, and psychopaths have no friends. Just assets to be discarded when they cease to be of use. Minions, pawns, and lapdogs. We rejoin this story with Chapter 28, Our Mission. Moses was asking if Diaz was proposing that she rejoin the Uchat. Diaz wasn't proposing that at all, since she knew that Moses would flat out refuse. If it was that, she wanted to hire her as the Distortion detective. Moses didn't know what Diaz wanted her to do regarding the fallen nest of Elcor. Why she wanted her to go there. A battlefield for numerous syndicates and fixers. Diaz was appearing to be glad to see Ezra enjoying her meal. This made Ezra suspicious due to this attention. Didn't stop her from filling her stomach. Vespa was eating as well. Moses started to think that there wouldn't be any food left after they were done. Moses continued the conversation with Diaz, and Diaz made it clear that she wanted the Distortions to be captured alive. Apparently, they're part of her dreams, although she didn't fully admit it. As she never lied, but she wouldn't tell the full truth, not revealing more than she desires to. As for the numbers of Distortions within Elcor's nest, Moses wanted to know if there'd be more of them, or if there are any particular ones that she wants. Diaz asked Moses if she knew what Elcor's nest was like at this point. Her lapdog, hee-joon, explained it to Moses as Diaz was at that sort of thing, where it was shrouded by fog of an unknown origin. Similar to the smoke war, except it hinders vision and those caught within it end up getting lost. As for the bloodshed that's occurring, syndicates and fixers were killing each other due to the money that they can make from their activities. Yes, the activities they do there. What that was, well, it depends on whether you're legit or not. The thumb and the index have made their move. Yeah. I'm thinking that it's no later than Urban Plague. As far as where it fits into the main story of Library of Ruina. Moses considered the index to be the worst of the two. And considering how they work, I can't really blame her. As for why Diaz was sending them into that war zone, and how it's relevant to the Distortion, Diaz told her that there are reports of Distortion cases in the nest. Even though the fog made it difficult to navigate their way through it, they get reports from those that encounter what's within it. Moses asked him if he wanted them to capture these Distortions alive. He confirmed this to be the case, and to make sure that it's in a more complete form. She needed to let it progress farther than it has if it's incomplete. Then hee-joon asked if she's aware of the term abnormality. Moses didn't, but those who have gone through everything in the story so far, that's Lobotomy Corporation and Library of Ruina, will be quite aware of it. Abnormalities were created artificially, using L-Corp singularity, all to generate clean energy. Most of them were artificial anyway. Some were more natural, which came into being before White Nights and Dark Days. He left it to her judgment. Apparently, her talent with resolving distortions makes her adequate to neutralize them. Moses asked what was next. Tell Ezra to carry the distortion on her shoulder? Okay, Ezra did not agree to this. Thankfully, hee-joon told them that the Ujat would pick it up. As for whether or not they'd accompany them, she didn't want them to, as she hates travelling in crowds. And hee-joon thought so too. Besides, there's an more pressing problem. The problem of getting lost within that nest. Long-distance surveillance, at least of the visual kind, isn't possible. As for how Moses' office would find them, DS gave her a gift of a new artificial arm that costs a lot of money. Well, she wouldn't find an arm like that anywhere in the city. This was unusual for DS. It turns out that with this arm, they'd be able to locate her, and she'll be able to communicate with her. Yeah, it's a shackle that wouldn't let her escape her notice wherever she goes. Well, she could always remove that arm and replace it with another once she's done. As for how many distortions that DS wants captured, the answer to that was until she's satisfied. That's the problem, as she might never be satisfied. Moses was resisting the urge to punch DS in the face. hee-joon repeated that she wanted not only this, but also for them to retrieve the black boxes, like the one that was found in Taeyong Produce Company. Apparently it was procured from L-Corp's nest. Possibly from one of the sealed branches. Well, it would explain a few things. Basically, she collects them and plans to create them. And why she wants to create them, it's to achieve her dream. Well, it's unlikely to be anything that Moses would approve of. And I doubt that it's just to become a wing. Her ambitions sound like they're much larger than that. Moses asks why should she take that job. hee-joon said that it might be her chance to atone for her past. Moses took out her pipe and bit it into her mouth, doing what she could to contain her ire. hee-joon told her to remain calm as He's saying that sincerely. Do you really think that she'll believe you after what you've pulled? Vespa Kramer had a problem with her smoking at the dinner table, but DS didn't mind it, telling her to smoke all she wanted. Moses was likely thinking, "Spare me, you're primarily fooling yourself," as she put her pipe back into her pocket. Her pockets, yeah. The disbelief. It's overwhelming. Hee-joon invited Vespa to assist them. As for why he should do this, it's because DS might be able to reinstate him in N-Corp if he did. His silence was taken as a yes. As for the deal, assuming that it makes sense, Hee-joon spoke of a few candidates. The Laundry of Dreams, which is unlikely to be something that makes your clothes clean. The Human Thunderbolts, which is unlikely to be a red speedster or a magical equivalent of Superman. The Library. We already know that they don't go there, as they weren't a guest group in that. Yesterday's Promise. Okay, that one would be suicide, even with Psychoman says he's got the ability to warp reality. The 8 o'clock Circus. Ah yes, so it's before that office bought it. The Church of Gears. Sorry, Hee-joon, the blue sicko will beat you to it. The man-eating sandwich. Holy! There really is a killer panini distortion where the sandwich eats the human. Moses stopped him as Seven Association usually designates ungraceful names. Moses wanted to start with the Laundry of yes, the Laundry of Dreams, an urban legend, the same threat level as the Library at that time. So it's definitely before the events of the dorm office reception. As around that time, the 8 o'clock Circus was fought. And based on the key page of one of the Wedge office, there's some crossover here. And also, the Church of Gears at this point hasn't been targeted yet. Moses decided to take off for that the next day, despite DS not minding if she stayed there and played with her for a week. She didn't want to spend longer in your service than she has to. DS. Moses then went outside, smoking on the terrace, seeing beautiful lights in the vast garden. Then Ezra followed her after a time, Moses asking if she mellowed out. Ezra understood that it was the only option that she had, but she made her promise not to use the pale breath again, as it eats away at her lifespan. Moses understood not to use it, unless their survival was on the line. As in when they'd be dead if she didn't use it. She told Ezra to go to bed as they have work to do the next day. Ezra asked if she's really going to go ahead with the atonements that Hee-joon mentioned. Moses was. The next morning, she equipped the artificial arm that Diaz gave her, although she would rather not accept it. Unfortunately, she was unable to get a new one quickly enough, so she was stuck with it. They then prepared for the trip. Hee-joon was waiting for them next to a black van. Vespa and Ezra were loading the boot with various gadgets. He told her that Diaz departed at dawn for somewhere else. She wanted to apologize for not giving her a proper farewell. Moses was probably thinking to herself, "Good, she's actually doing me a favor. She's clearly had enough fun at my expense." He also told Yuria that she doesn't need to hide herself in front of him, and told them that there's an Ujat outpost near the nest of Elcor being set up. They should head into the nest first. Moses intended to bring sickness pills due to Ezra's driving. Vespa offered to take the wheel. Moses asked if he was a good driver. Vespa implied that he was. Moses saw him as another lapdog of Diaz, although he had a reason to do so. A more self-serving reason. Hee-joon told her that she'll be contacted later. Moses gestured him to get the away from her. Then they started their journey. The beginning of another journey of the damned. Before we continue with the story, let's talk about Vespa Kramer. He's 24. He used to be a taboo hunter of Encore before he was fired, likely due to not reporting for 2 weeks. He's currently assisting Moses' office, although that's more because their interests are aligned than anything. And he's a Grade 1 fixer. Ooh, yeah. No wonder he wiped out most of Daogui Combat Office. He's 192 centimeters in height, that's 6'4". He has some knowledge of vehicle maintenance, and he prefers to organize his thoughts while brewing cinnamon tea. I can certainly understand him there. He's an expert tracker, and he's a skilled driver. He was born January the 24th, and likes substantial meals, along with clothes comfortable for activities that require agility. He also likes cinnamon. He also likes cars. A couple of things that he doesn't like, however, are cacti and syndicates. He especially hates the fun. Well, who can blame him, as... Well, those of you who have been following the story of the fun in Library of Ruina, they're not the nicest of individuals, as they can be quite messy if you even look at them the wrong way. Their journey continues in Chapter 29, Safe Passage. Vespa proved to be a competent driver, as the ride was surprisingly comfortable, as they were driving along the highway to Elcorp's nest. The Laundry of Dreams was located in the back streets of District 12. The nest was veiled in a fog due to the fall of Lobotomy Corporation. When that wing fell, the nest was doomed to collapse as a result, a permanent scar in place on the city before it crumbled to dust. This is what the fog was. The syndicates were there to feast on the remains, while the fixers were there to stop them on behalf of their clients. On top of that, distortions were included in the battlefield. She skipped past the rest of the nest info and skimmed through the report on the Laundry of Dreams. It was originally an urban plague due to it wiping out an entire office of fixers. Now it's an urban legend, as it didn't cause anything notable after that. Vespa wanted to know what they were supposed to take care of as she was driving. Moses was about to read that part. Yuria told them that it looked like an ordinary co-op laundromat on the outside, but after using it, the user of it comes out a completely different person. Does that include race and gender? Well, we'll find out soon enough. Ezra saw this as a location-type distortion, much like the mock exam case. Vespa didn't know what they were talking about. Moses told Ezra to tell him about the classifications that they've established while doing their work. She got out her notebook with the yellow cover plastered with stickers. Yeah, that's how they can tell it's hers. She was also taking the by explaining the details of the distortion in a lecture to Yuria the protege and Vespa the baby bee. This irritated Vespa due to he felt that he was patronized. The high-quality intel was organized by Moses and Ezra, all based on the experience of working on the distortions. Moses can see the distortion, and distortion was how the Hana Association designated it. Vespa heard that people were suddenly transforming and taking monstrous shapes. Yuria was familiar with the pianist case in District 9. Ezra understood that they were on the right track with the basics. She continued by saying that Moses thinks that there's more to the distortion than just people turning into monsters. She can see the distortion as a person's mind bursting forth into physical reality. Vespa understood that the detective could see the distortion before it physically manifested. Ezra confirmed that's how their office can solve cases before it's past the line where it's physically manifested. Vespa understood that it's up to Moses to determine whether a case of the distortion has fully manifested. Then Ezra told little junior Vespa that it's Detective Moses. Vespa's irritation increased, and corrected himself just to get on with it. Ezra went on to say that many different types of distortions were classified along with the stages of progression, their causes. They connect the dots to explain how it's caused and the explanation to the subjects, so that they can understand it. To resolve the case before it manifests. Vespa wanted to know if the same can be done with those that are fully distorted. Moses told him that it depends on the progress and category. She updated her knowledge of the distortion after recent events, likely referring to those regarding Diaz and the black boxes. She told Ezra to pay attention to her, and Ezra was ready to add to what was there, writing a new page in that book. Until recently, she only categorized distortions by type, but now she includes severity in her newest classification system, along with incubation period, early stage, middle stage, and terminal stage. Yuria saw it as similar to how a disease works, and Moses doesn't think she's wrong about that, as it appears to be a disease. Perhaps the disease of the mind made into physical reality. Well, it certainly makes them destructive, at times self-destructive. And what made it possible was incomplete. Most have an incubation period, and she titles the earliest stage where it becomes visible to her as this. Vespa wanted to know the severity of the B-wings that she sees on him. Moses saw his at an early stage, but that's subjective as the incubation period is mostly fragmentary. Early stage distortions are still minor, but has a definite form, and the early symptoms are felt. You could likely feel a breeze generated by the beats of his wings. Well, only he would be able to feel that. Most others wouldn't. Well, Moses is one exception to that. Vespa saw this ability to find and resolve distortions as useful. Moses saw it that way as well. But she feels unwanted sensations and pain that no others can feel. Then they encountered the mist as they came off the highway and drove along the narrow road towards Elcorb's nest. It was 1 p.m, and sunlight scattered and shimmered in the mist. The rest of the explanation could wait, as a group of at least a dozen people were blocking the way. Although unsure of why they were there, Moses would rather avoid conflict if they could. One of them knocked on the car window, and Vespa lowered it, asking... Well, it was this individual that knocks on the car window that asked if they were going on a little family trip. And considering the augmentation tattoos on her arms that were Irizumi, along with the katanas, they were clearly the Kurukuma Clan, and they were entering their territory. Moses was unfamiliar with them, but we know who they are. Well, those that have either played the game or followed the lore section that I've made of them. Vespa asked them what their business was. Okay, before we get to what they were doing there, let's talk about this subsidiary of the fun, which is a hierarchy-obsessed finger. Now, the Kurukuma Clan was themed around the Yakuza, where in Japan, tattoos have a negative association. At least in the Japan of our world. It's associated with criminals. And at this point, they're giving the inhabitants of the nest of District 12 a hard time for what they've done or in some cases not done, to them in the back streets. As for why they were stopped, well, it was a toll station and they needed to pay a small toll to pass. Moses noted that the syndicates of the South dress in a more composed manner than those in the North. Ezra asked Moses about what to do, and, well, Moses told her to give them what they want, understanding that they're money and power-hungry scoundrels, so no matter how high the bid, it's still within the budget that Diaz gave them. Ezra asked what they needed. Or wanted, rather. They initially made the offer of 2 million an, but after she counted it carefully, they changed their mind. As Ezra was still reluctant to give it to them. Yeah. The offer was increased to 10 million an. Regardless, Moses ordered her to give it to her. To the one in charge of that group of Kurukuma Clan. While Ezra passed the 10 million an through the driver's window, Vespa was calm and passive. Moses saw that this syndicate didn't demand everything they had from them. Those new to being a syndicate would do something stupid like that, which would bite them in the... This one, however, assessed the opponent and stopped at an acceptable price. The black plastic plate that the Kurukuma Clan had was handed to them, so that with that they could move freely in Kurukuma Clan territory, at least according to Yuri, the vice captain of that syndicate. She even tried to chat up Moses and Ezra, offering to pay their tab. Yeah, even Moses. Clearly, Yuri is not discriminating. And not just with Moses being a more mature woman. Let's just say that Olga and Mio go that way as well. So it's not that huge a surprise. Yuri then let them pass. It went smoothly. Unfortunately, her head then rolled off. Due to it was due to Vespa slicing it off. He then proceeded to make shorter work on the thugs than the final fight scene of Kill Bill Volume 1. He then went back to the driving seat. And even though the 10 million an could be recovered, Moses was enraged by Vespa's actions, telling him that the next time he wants pointless bloodshed, he'd do it over her cold dead body. Vespa tells her that he tries not to, as he continues driving. Well, they have a pass that can get them past Kurukuma Clan checkpoints. Well, which was acquired... Well, they acquired it after slaughtering a whole group of them. Let's hope that the Kurukuma Clan don't find out who killed them, as they're known to be quite vengeful. It immediately follows with Chapter 30, Chapter, where Moses argued about the contradiction of him, as in Vespa, not being a fan of killing, yet he has blood on his Hondo. He saw it as simple retribution for what they've done. No, Moses, it wasn't because he saw it as the right to decide who lives or dies. It was due to those that couldn't afford the toll, losing their heads. Moses warned him to follow every order she gives from that point onwards if he wants the help of Diaz to get his job back. If they up due to his actions, he'll have no chance of returning to Encore. She also has experience of dealings with Diaz, warning him that she's capable of sinking him to rock bottom with a life of misery. So if he gets it wrong, he'll end up like the Black Silence, after someone was able to stop his rampage. Vespa said that he'd keep that in mind. Ezra collected the 10 million arm, and they can also use the black plate to get past any other Kurukuma Clan checkpoints. Not thinking that they'll figure out who killed Vice Captain Yuri, although Ezra was thinking of using it to get free drinks. This exasperated Moses, due to Ezra's short attention span. She told Ezra that the money that Diaz gave them would allow them to buy whatever food or drink that they can get. Vespa was also interested in this. When Moses asked for that black plastic plate, it would be useful later. Once handed to her, it showed a kanji that roughly translated to Kurukuma Clan, and had Vice Captain Yuri's signature on the back. Then Yuri compared the location type Distortion, the Laundry of Dreams, to her atelier. She wasn't talking that much, as it appears that she's finding it more difficult to maintain her psychoments since heading for L-Corp's nest. Vespa wanted to know what this was. Moses then told Ezra that she didn't care how Vespa refers to her, so she shouldn't bother pointing it out, even though he's the newest and youngest member of their office. This irritated Vespa, as he was with them due to the possibility of getting back into Encore, not because he wants to join their office. It's more an alliance of convenience than anything. It was then explained to him that it was a certain spot being subject to distortion. It wasn't limited to humans. Vespa was understanding that much. The building was a trap to the average person. Ezra added that the stronger it was, the more warped the area got. Moses continued by saying that the distortion can overflow, and a powerful one can influence its surroundings, if left uncontrolled. Like with the giant carp case, the one she solved involving Fei Lei, the one who turned into said giant carp in a pool of depressive water. Ezra saw sadness as distorted into a form of water. Moses put it as melancholy. It can alter the area and become host to minions, although this one wasn't a location type. It was something that can influence its surroundings. Vespa sarcastically said that she could publish an encyclopedia with all that knowledge, surprised if any library would be willing to collect a book like that. Well, there is one. Ezra didn't pick up on the sarcasm and thought he was being serious. Then Vespa asked for directions to the Distortion. The building sunken in fog would make navigation more difficult for most. The fog was different from the fume of the smoke wall, comparing the mist to stagnant water, similar to the properties of sorrow, a possible manifestation of someone's melancholy. Well, there is one within the library that has some inner conflicts, and isn't entirely honest about her own feelings towards that. Moses used the arm that Diaz gave her to figure out a way, scanning the barcode printed on the reports of the Laundry of Dreams, where it guided them to the most recently observed site, instructing them to turn right 300 meters ahead, which, considering that it's voice-based, it's better than hologram-based navigation. Moses told Vespa to follow the instructions of this, well, sat-nav arm, for lack of... Yeah, can't think of a better way of putting it. Vespa asked that if hee-joon told them that their work was to capture distortions, how were they going to seize a location? Moses replied that they'd shrink if its power was neutralized, weakening it enough to fit in their hand, or at least the trunk of their van, which has the same properties as the dimensional bag, also provided by Diaz, so there's no problem containing larger objects, although storing people like this isn't a good idea, hoping that Diaz kept that in mind. Well, probably, as she wants them alive. Vespa asked if they have to go in to them themselves. Moses confirmed this. Vespa reminded her that it's akin to a trap, that there's a risk that they'll be killed as soon as they set foot there. Moses told him that they weren't weapons of murder, not artificial creations with a specific purpose. It's based around a cry for recognition of their mental afflictions. Not all distortions have a murderous intent. Vespa leaves that judgment to Moses. And Ezra cheerfully told Baby B to trust the detective, which increased Vespa's annoyance. As the navigation was occurring, Moses noticed Uria's teddy bear form wasn't looking so good. Psychement synchronization was not as stable where they were. Thankfully, her human body was being protected by Daogi Combat Office in District 14. Basically, the deeper they got into the nest, the thicker the mist got, and the more her consciousness faded. Moses told Uria to take a nap, and she gladly did that. Then the arm said that classic line. Well, the arm to be more precise. Sorry. You have reached your destination. A large green neon sign was clear to them, even in the fog. This was the Laundry of Dreams. Moses warned them to be prepared. Ezra took her dimensional bag. Vespa took his sword and harpoon, Moses readied her pipe in her mouth. Well, who'd noticed the tobacco smoke in that fog? Well, certainly not the look of it, considering that she was smoking, just before they entered the laundry of dreams. That will have to wait until the next lore breakdown of the Distortion Detective. Yes. Dears certainly has invested much in recent events and Moses. Until next time, hail the rabbit!